Well, I want Amorim sacked at the end of the season. If he wins no trophy, I want Amorim sacked at the end of the season. They're the messages I've been receiving this morning. And I don't quite understand what, why, or where this was coming from. I didn't get it. I'm sitting there going, I haven't asked for Amorim to be sacked. Where has this come from? Then I went on to X. Before we go any further, hit the like button and make sure you are subscribing, please. Get the bell notification turned on as well. Loads to talk about on the show today. But I want to start with, I went on to X and I had some DMs. I had some DMs. And one of them, this is where the penny dropped. Bro, why are you advocating? Why are you advocating for Amorim to be sacked after back Arteta, you effing pussy dick prick? I mean, it's not very coherent. I'm dyslexic, so maybe I'm reading that wrong. But I was sent this clip from me and LB and Potsy yesterday on Straight Facts. And I'm like, well, okay, let me take a look. Maybe I've misspoke. And this was a clip I was sent. I'm going to play it for you now. Take a little listen to why I was sent that abuse and other messages. Take a little listen.
Sack him at the end of the year if he doesn't win anything, so
Potsy there says, would you sack him at the end of the year if he doesn't win anything? Which is fair. Maybe that gives a bit of reason to why I got that abusive message. But listen.
Sack him at the end of the year if he doesn't win anything, so
yes and no. So I want to answer this honestly. If you can get a manager that gives you a high level of confidence is better and can get you over the line, then yes. If it's someone you're umming and ahhing whether or not they're better than him, or whether or not they're going to take you forward, then I would say no. Okay. But we were talking about Arsenal and Mikel Arteta. So I don't know where this has come from. I've had 3 or 4 DMs, and I was thinking, one of them from someone I respect, saying, brother, you call for Amorim to be sacked? I was like, no. I had a WhatsApp message as well. I then had this DM to me, again, a fairly incoherent, abusive message. And I'm sitting here and thinking, where's this come from? Why suddenly are people saying I've asked for Amorim to be sacked? And then now the penny then dropped. It's obviously been put onto like a No Context Fan TV X page or maybe a sort of Instagram, something along those lines. Someone has posted it somewhere. One of those kind of funny troll joke accounts has posted it and someone's taken it seriously. But all jokes aside, that was me answering yesterday, would I sack Arteta or not? And I stand by my stance. If Arsenal tomorrow said Arteta's going, but Simeone's coming, Arteta's going, but Pep's coming in, Arteta's leaving, but Klopp is coming in, I'm using those 3 as an example, I would advocate the decision as very good. You're bringing in my opinion, a better manager, so that the chance of going to that next stage and getting over the line is higher. Where I would probably refrain from pulling away, because I don't think he's lost a dressing room, is if you're taking a risk on a manager that's never been in a title race, never managed in England. I'm talking combinations of this, by the way. Inexperienced in themselves, never won any major trophies. I would push back and say maybe at this particular juncture that's a risk. However, I'm not doing the due diligence that a sporting director and the owners of a club should be doing into these managers. So I will bow to their superior knowledge. But that was my answer. But I want to just confirm to anyone who, I don't know whether it's going to be on Instagram, X, YouTube. Maybe it's a YouTube short. There's a number of people out there who clip my stuff up. No, I haven't asked for Amorim to be sacked. I don't know where that's come from. But there we go. Now, moving on from this, another mad take I saw yesterday, and I want to put this up on the screen for you all to see, because I was a little bit taken aback by this tweet. This is Joey Barton getting involved in the AFCON situation. Joey Barton says, AFCON isn't a major tournament unless you are brown and or from Africa. Stop gaslighting people. The gaslighting comment is a massive red flag. Maybe even more so than the first line in some respects to me, because people are misusing the word gaslight all the time. I'm going to get to the first line in a moment. Gaslighting is what you do to psychologically abuse people, to make them challenge their own view of reality. But it's It's what an abuser does. It's what someone in a sort of domestic abuse will do, as an example. You ever seen, you might have seen it on television or in documentaries where, you know, someone says, oh, it's not his fault that he hits me. It's my fault because I upset him. That's your partner gaslighting you into believing that's true. What is not gaslighting is football fans having an open and honest and frank conversation and expressing opinions. That is not gaslighting. Because there is no psychological behind-the-scenes backdoor abuse happening at the same time. So that word has got to stop being used because it's so out of context, in my opinion. It's crazy. But the first thing that is said here by Joey Barton about it's not a major tournament unless you are brown or from Africa, I just find this to be massively bigoted and disrespectful. I really, really do. Now, I understand that obviously the continent of Africa is full of African people, you know, from each different country, and it makes sense. And so the people on that continent, I don't think, barring individuals that have emigrated or a sort of second or third generation in terms of immigration that have African roots, you are right if you were to say that AFCON means more to people from the continent of Africa than any other continent around the world. That's a fair statement to make. But I also think the Euros means more to Europeans because our nations are in it. People enjoy watching it. Copa America means more to South Americans than it does to North Americans or Australasians or Europeans in terms of we all want a team to win it. We enjoy the sport, but it's their continent playing. So, of course, it means more to African people to watch AFCON, European people to watch and support the tournament of the Euros. I don't really understand the point that's being made here, but that doesn't stop it from being a major tournament. Is it as big or as popular right now as the Euros? No, but it's growing all the time. And let's go back to the crux of the point that was being made by Jamie Carragher, and he's clarified it so we now know the full extent of what he was saying. He thinks that if Mo Salah had a bad Premier League season and then killed it in AFCON, that wouldn't help him win a Ballon d'Or. That's the argument here. We cannot get away. No one is arguing whether or not it's bigger than the World Cup, whether or not it's bigger at the moment than Copa America or Euros. We know those tournaments are massive, but they're a lot older, and football on the continent of Africa is still, I wouldn't call it in a fledgling stage, but it's not been, it hasn't been developed as long as, say, European football has, as an example. But this sort of notion that Jamie Carragher has created now, that the AFCON can do nothing to help you win a Ballon d'Or, is bullshit. Because if AFCON was on this season, whether it's the middle of the campaign or in the summer, with Mo Salah's current season, if he went and killed it at AFCON, won it, scored loads of goals, was a brilliant performer, it would help him in his pursuit of winning the Ballon d'Or. It's just, for me, that's just a fact. The same as if Harry Kane was awful all season for Bayern and then scored 15 goals at a World Cup, 20 goals at a Euros, and England won it, I don't think he'd win the Ballon d'Or. I don't think he'd win it. It wouldn't help him. So we've got to remember what we're talking about here. This debate isn't AFCON's bigger than the Euros, AFCON's bigger than Copa America, and I don't think we should allow it to be hijacked. The crux of this debate was, can Mo Salah playing well for Egypt at AFCON in the midst of a very good domestic campaign, a very good European campaign with his club, could it aid him in winning a Ballon d'Or? Everybody is getting sidetracked and arguing things that are not about the core and the centre of why this debate began in the first place. Then you've got people like Joey Barton coming in, gatekeeping who does and doesn't consider AFCON to be a major tournament based on skin colour or nationality. And again, as soon as you start segregating people, whether you think it's for good or bad reasons, by skin tone, skin pigmentation, skin colour, culture, nationality, you're on the very least on a very, very slippery slope indeed. There's no reason to bring that up in any capacity, in my personal opinion. Now, moving on from that wallad, let's take a listen here to Rory Jennings, who, again, some Chelsea fans might think is a bit of a wallad as well. And I may not have said that word right, but then you can have a good laugh, can't you? Let's take a little listen here to Rory Jennings.
Does Maresca need help?
I think he needs a P45, really.
Oh! Wants him sacked.
I mean, it feels like it's over. It feels like this period is over. Like, it's not necessarily his fault. It's not necessarily something that I'm particularly animated about. You know, in the past, there's been managers at Chelsea that I've loved and I've been furious when they got sacked. When they sacked Jose Mourinho the first time round, I was livid, I was down the ground. When they sacked Roberto Di Matteo, I was, like, really upset. Equally, we've employed managers where I've been quite happy to see them. I've been, like, aggressively anti them. Rafael Benitez, I couldn't bear. Maurizio Sarri was an era I didn't like. I don't feel like that. I'm not impassioned by this. It's almost worse. I'm not particularly angry. It's almost apathy. We are sort of worn out by this ownership. I think that the club are moving massively in the wrong direction, and Enzo Maresca is the public face of that. So we have to talk about him. We have to talk about the mistakes that he's making. But
I get where Rory's coming from. His view holds water. You may disagree with him, but there is logic to his point. When it comes to sacking Enzo Maresca, I think what you have to focus on is the direction that the board is going in. So for a while, I've been confused about Chelsea. In the last 4 to 5 months, keep Maresca, not keep Maresca, buy experienced players, continue on the path that you're on. And that's a debate within itself. But I think the conclusion of that debate and the decision that Chelsea make will dictate what should happen with Enzo Maresca. If, for instance, the approach is we're just going to keep buying young players, the young players we bought 2 years ago, they will become the experienced players in 2 or 3 years. What we are not going to do is buy 26, 27, 28-year-olds who want 300 grand a week. It's not part of our plan. Then I feel keeping someone like Maresca makes a lot more sense because you want to give those young players as much continuity as possible so they can develop. Chopping and changing managers every single year. Yes, it worked for Chelsea in the Roman era when there was a really strong, solid core of world-class pros that could essentially half manage the club themselves at times if they needed to, take training sessions, ensure the standards are maintained. John Terry, Lampard, Drogba, to name a few. Petr Cech. That doesn't exist anymore. The situation is different, so therefore I don't think you can have the same remedy for it. Equally, though, if this summer they decide, look, we're going out and spending 300 million, but it's going to be on 4 players who are 26, 27, 28 winners, they've all won major trophies, they're ready to go now, then I think there is credence, there is logic in moving on to a more experienced manager to get the best out of them if you're going to change that element of the kind of approach of the football club. Style of football's the same, profile's the same in terms of the technical ability and what you want the footballers to be able to do, but maybe the age profile of those individuals, the wage demands changes. So I get where Rory's coming from, and listen, I'm not even overly disagreeing with his point. I just think Chelsea fans have got to look at this a little more holistically. I feel they need to, before they demand what they want, I think it's important to understand the direction that their club is going in. Hopefully that makes sense. Look, as ever, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to the people there's a few people have reached out to me very kindly today, so I'll tell you there's a clip going around with you. I don't mind people clipping up my content. I always say I want my football opinions to be challenged. It is a little disappointing when these kind of out of context fan channels and these out of context Insta accounts and stuff clip you in that way. Especially when they present it as, you know, I haven't seen the origin of this yet, so if anyone wants to DM it to me, please do. It's a little frustrating, but at the end of the day, everyone who respects the Terrace, everyone who watches me knows what I've said about Amorim and knows what I think about the Arteta situation. So in my heart of hearts, am I going to lose any sleep over it? Nah. But I thought I'd address it with you all today just to show you how funny it was in by and large, especially the abuse. The abuse I've had off the back of it's just so funny. One guy DM me, right? And he's just sort of said, even if you haven't said this, I get angry that you might do it one day. I was like, hang on. So you're angry with me about something that I haven't done? Mad. I love this world. Listen, everyone who's tuned in, thank you. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.